All right, well, today is going to be an absolute bona fide classic rock classic. This is Born on the Bayou by Creedence Clearwater Revival, released in 1969, and just a great piece of work. Super simple guitar chords on it, and a super fun solo, and it makes use of a tremolo effect. So I'm going to talk about all of that, and the solo actually sounds very simple, but there's actually sort of a lot of nuance going on there that I wanted to deep dive into. So we're going to I'll cover the rhythm guitar, but I'm also going to do a deep dive on that guitar solo. So if this is the kind of thing that you like and you haven't done so yet, please jump down right now and click subscribe and ring the bell. The bell lets you know when I drop new content, which I do every single week. All my videos have chapters in them, so you can jump right to the part of the lesson that you want to see and bypass what you don't. And if you're looking for other ways to support the channel, I appreciate that. There's thanks, which is just a button below, like you can throw a tip in the tip jar. Or you can join my Patreon page where you can get chord charts and tabs for all the lessons that I do on YouTube like this. Links in the description. Check it out. Okay, so Born on the Bayou. This is off their Bayou Country album, I believe, released in 1969. And just a super fun piece of work. So the two guitarists in CCR, if you don't know, they're brothers. There's John Fogerty, who's the main songwriter and lead guitar player, Tom Fogerty, who plays rhythm guitar. They have a very distinctive sound, as you know. And if you've seen some of my previous videos, they have a very unique sort of mix of tunings in a lot of the famous songs, but this is not one of them. This is one where everybody's in standard tuning. And for their different parts, and we'll cover all of that today. So let's just sort of talk about the chords, and a little bit about Tom Fogerty's rhythm guitar playing on all of this. There's really not a whole lot to this song, but so the main chord that dominates this whole song, it's in E. And it's an E7 chord, and it's this shape of an E7 chord. Right? So it's sort of like a C7, but you're doing it up here on the 7th fret. That's an E7. It lets you play the open E string on both sides. You can let them ring. Okay? So Tom Fogerty is just playing, during the verses, what you're hearing are E7s just all over the place. With those dual E strings ringing out. There's a little bit of play with that happens. Both, I think, John and Tom sort of overlap on some of this, but they'll take that E7 and they'll flatten their ring finger across the 7th fret to sort of catch like a D chord, right? And go right back to the E7. So it sort of sounds like, rather than just simply be straight E7 the entire time. That's the sort of embellishment that they do on it. So when they're droning on that E, that's sort of what the guitars are doing there. And then when it gets to the, the actual chord changes and the bass changes as well, the next two chords are D and A, right? Right? But you don't play all of that. What they do is they play. You just keep your hands right in that position, right? And there's actually options, right? You can still sound like the record doing that. E7, D. I'm doing that form of an A, still letting that E string ring out. Or you can just jump down here and do your cowboy chord. He really hits that E though. He's not really on a cowboy chord E. Or up here. When he's singing Born on the Bayou, right? Right? So that's pretty much it for all the rhythm guitars. You know, the only chord changes are when they go to the D and the A and back to the E. That's really it. The rest of the time they're just vamping on that E7 and maybe embellishing it a little bit with that little D triad figure on top. Okay? So that's the rhythm guitar. That's all I'm going to say about that. Ooh, I almost forgot. So the very beginning of the song, when John Fogerty's guitar comes in, I always thought went like this. But it doesn't. It actually starts all the way down here on B, on the 2nd fret. So start down here on the B with your sort of shape. What I do is I don't start with these fingers like on a B7 here. I make the shape that I'm going to. I just pick my index finger up. So I'm sort of in that position here. I'm going to slide up from 2 up to 7. There you go. Okay, so that's that part. The really interesting part of this song, guitar-wise for me, is that solo. And I've listened super carefully to this. And there's a lot of things I had to unlearn what I thought he was playing. Did a lot of you can watch a lot of live footage. He plays it a little bit differently now than it was on the record. You can if you have access to, I think it's Netflix or Prime Video, there's the concert where they play at the Royal Albert Hall. And they play this song, and there's shots of him not really like front on, but from the back, and you can see where his hand position is when he's playing the solo, all that. And you know, that was right in 1969, 70, and I sort of put a lot of stock in that, like if he's gonna, because they do try and play it like the record in those days. They kind of do now too, but those days they really, really did. So I take a lot of stock in what I'm seeing there on where his hands positions are for where he's choosing to play the notes of the solo. Okay, so that's what's going to inform what I'm going to go over here, and it sort of matches what my ear is hearing. All right, so the missing piece of equipment here before I go into that is the tremolo. So I'm using a Maestro Mariner tremolo, which is new to me, and I'm loving it. It has sort of 2 settings on it. It's got the classic sort of tremolo sound to it, and it's also got a harmonic tremolo. So those early sort of brown face Fenders had a harmonic tremolo, which is a little bit different. I'm loving this. Anyway, I'll put all the settings for the gear in the description below. I'm on the classic setting, actually, depth, speed, and shape for me on those knobs are all pretty much at 1 o'clock. So that's what I got, and it sounds like that. I have a little bit of overdrive on that to get the John Fogerty sound on this record. So that's the speed approximately. All right. Okay, so now the solo. So there's sort of 3 parts to this solo. The first part of the solo is based off of a cowboy E chord down here. It's played in the 1st position. The sort of second part of the solo is up here. We're going to play around this shape of an E chord. And then the third part of the solo is sort of chords that are going to be going along with the chord changes. And then finally, there's a part that caps off the solo again, which is down here in 1st position. So 4 parts to this solo. Okay, so here's the first part of the solo. I'm just going to play it through. Okay, so it's all right here in 1st position, E. He slides up to this sort of, you're familiar with this, that E7 shape, but he leaves that open E string again. It's just sort of that blues. It's just riffing off of that kind of thing, right? So it's, here's our major third on our E, which is the first fret on G, and you're just moving back and forward just as pull-offs, right? He starts on that A note. So that's just building off of that E chord. Then he goes up. And then back to our hammer-ons. That thing, right? So I may have lost count on all those, but that's all that is to it. It's just this. And then back to, that's all that part of the solo is. But it's beautiful, right? First part of the journey. Second part of the journey, we're going to go up here. And so what he's doing, let me talk about thematically what he's doing here, right? So many of you may be familiar with this sort of trick where you take a chord and you play, basically you're playing strings 4 and 2 together, right? Or 2 strings together complementary, right? So, you know, an E chord in this position, you would play those, right? And you can climb up, right? And you can sort of do that all over the place. You know, those kinds of things. He's doing it loosely off of that, right? But the main riff is sort of in A. I mean, not A, in E, right? He's sort of going off of that droning E7 chord. So he's going to play a lot off of an E chord. And he's doing it up here in this shape. So you've got and, right? That's where a lot of the solo is going to be, right here, okay? And I tend to pick it as a hybrid. So I've got my pick in one hand, working on the 4th string, and finger on the 2nd string. But you could do it as fingers too, right? And I would say don't be super precious about only hitting the 4th and the 2nd string. I'm going to have your hands in a position where if you occasionally strike the 3rd string, it's all good. It all works, and I think he does too, to be honest. I think it's sort of that loose, right? Okay, so here's a demonstration of the next part of the solo, and I'm going to take it as far as we go until we get to the D-A-E part, right? Here we go. Okay, then that's D-A-E, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So off the bat, there's a couple different ways that you can play it, and like I said, I've chosen to do this based on what I'm seeing his hand position doing from the rear and what I'm hearing with my ear. So what a lot of people on YouTube are doing that I'm seeing is, and what I have always done, is this. And it's fine, it's great, and it works. Listening closely, I don't think that's what he's doing, because what I hear is this note sliding up. I'm hearing that note slide up. And if that's going to happen, then I think this is the position that he's grabbing those 2 notes. Right? It's the same notes, just up here. And that's where I'm choosing to play it. It's keeping everything all up here. And the other reason why I think that he's doing it that way is at the end of it. But when he pulls off, you can hear him sort of pull off before he goes to the D-A-E part, right? You can hear a little bit of that. So that's my contribution to the YouTube guitar solo for Born on the Bayou world, okay? Notice on my picking hand, on my left hand, I'm sort of keeping the beat going a little bit on that, on wherever my fingers are for the fourth string, right? Right? You can see that going. Right? So all that's the same off of that. Now, I'm going to play this version of getting up to the A note. Because I hear that note. And where your ear, what I've always done, and what I always thought he did was, but he doesn't. He does it now. He does it live now. That's what he does. That's what he does. But on the record, you don't hear that note. It's not there. That note. So if you don't believe me, go give it a lesson, but that's what you're hearing. And then back up again. All right, and he ends it with those two notes. Whoops. All right. So let me do that one more time all together, okay? Okay, now we're down to our chord changes, D, A, E, and it's going to be the same sort of thing. He's still picking the fourth string and the second string together. It's just whatever chord you're on, right? But it's at this position. He's going to do it 3 times the same way. This position D, with this position A, and this position E, right? And then he adds. I just popped a string there, but you know what I mean. Right, and that's that. And then the fourth time, he's going to come down to your first position. Same sort of intervals, D, A, E, but you're just playing those first position chords, and again, you're just playing the fourth string and second string, maybe a little bit of the third string. Right? Oop, I missed that one. Hit that one strong, but so that's it. So let's go all the way through up to that point together, all right? Yeah, I love that. And then the last part of the solo is right down here. Just building off of that E chord. Back to the top. right. So that's really it. That's all I have to say about Born on the Bayou. Just really nailing that solo. It's a great exercise if you want to explore that sort of two-finger picking, which you can do with fingers or your pick, or whatever you prefer, or learn it both ways, even better. But yeah, so that's how we did it. So that, my friends, is Born on the Bayou by CCR. Hope you learned something new today. If you like what you saw and you haven't done so yet, please jump down and click subscribe and ring the bell. The bell lets you know when I drop new content, which I do every single week. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this, and if there's another song you want me to take on and do a lesson similar, let me know what that is too. And until next week, take care, everybody.